Hello everyone and welcome to a very special little out-of-the-box episode of Planet Zoo. In today's video, you have seen this from the thumbnail, we are going to build something very magical, very fairy tale-ish, and something that is far, far away from any realism aspect in this game. But I felt in the last couple of days it was a little bit I don't know, people seem to get bored of the mainstream builds that are happening, and I know that, people that follow my channel for a longer time, they are used to every now and then something ridiculous, something completely not related to a game or not related to the, let's say, normal way how you want to do it and the, common understanding of what you would do in that game. So my approach was something that is not entirely new. I remember people doing that in Planet Coaster as well in a completely different way, but I always felt like a kid reading fairy tale books, like storybooks, was always something that had a certain magic in it. You just always sat there reading, or maybe even someone read it for you and you were just listening as a kid, and all these images and all these creatures within the book, they just come alive in your imagination, and for me personally, I'm a person that, if I start thinking about stuff in my head, there is a movie going on. Like, I cannot stop having so many things in my head all of the time, and I just want to do, and no, actually I have to say, I just want to have the time, and I want to be allowed to just sink into my thoughts at some point, and into the magic world of what our brain and our perception can deliver, and just escape from the real world. That is also what gaming is about for me, and I thought this time it would be pretty cool to realize that in some kind of building over here. And what I do today, you can download this building right now from the description down below. There is the blueprint available of this habitat. I must say there are a few things you might want to change when you place this down in your wonderful zoo, or maybe just in sandbox. For a good reason, I disabled the barriers. Actually, I didn't disable them, but I made them invisible so that this looks a lot more magical and realistic. However, if you want to have actual animals in there, I highly suggest to put a fence around. That makes sense, and just use a really existing barrier instead of the invisible one. It helps a lot, and it is not that hard to do. It just blocked the view for my, for my build here, and I just didn't want to do it. But yeah, so the idea again is like almost very well known. When you open this kind of magical book, and all of a sudden the whole story pops out, the animals, the creatures, they come out of the story, and this is exactly what I wanted to create. I wanted to create an open book that kind of opens itself up to the animals coming outside of the book. So we are creating also a little bit of a castle. Unfortunately, I lost the recording because of my own stupidity. Yesterday I cleaned my hard drive, and for whatever reason I just deleted this one recording as well. I tried to recover it, but it didn't work, and I didn't want to put that much effort into it anyways, because there is so much more to be seen in this build anyway. So yeah, you will see the finished castle after the very initial first things. It's not, I must admit also, it's not the most intricate building, because I wanted to stay somehow in the piece limit, and that's also why the building is maybe not at a status or at the standard that you guys know myself or know my buildings, what they used to be. So my idea was to kind of create something that is looking good, believable. It kind of, it is as good as it needs to be to make this whole scene working. At the same time, also somehow, be within the 4,000 pieces limit. I haven't really checked. I think I'm very close to the 4,000 piece limit, because what I'm doing here, obviously, with the book pages is already pretty piece heavy. Just creating these paper. Like, again, I could have done this also a lot more smooth, but I just didn't want to. Now, also, I figured it would be cool to have a habitat that is actually functional. So I was trying to do it as best as possible, and I ended up doing a bit of a surrounding as well. Actually, I wanted to only do the book, just very much only the book, so the stories are happening in there. But the problem was, I would have needed to do the book like twice or maybe 3 times as big as I did here, and then the problem is the proportions of the animals in comparison to the book wouldn't have been too small and the effect would have gone. You know, I just wanted to have this really popping out so the animals stand out. Actually, if it was about me, you know, and not the game, I would have done this actually 20 to 30% smaller than that, because I feel like this would be even cooler to have like the elephant really majestically, you know, being very big when it comes out of the book. It is big though. I also searched for the biggest size in the animal market to make sure that this looks as good as it can be. And yeah, I choose also to go with the giraffe and the elephant and the panda, you know, all these kind of mystical animals. Actually not mystical, but these animals you most often have in these kind of stories. Obviously we don't have mystical animals in here, like a phoenix or whatever. That would make sense to, you know, let them jump out of the book. That would be pretty cool though. But yeah, no, that's not what we do. Yeah, I also covered up a few things here and there to just make this book a bit more believable. In the end, we have a lot more details to be coming. I also have a lot of dedications in here in the book later, mainly for our Planet Zoo Gamescom team. I started off doing some stuff, you know, doing some dedications in, and I don't know, I just wanted to have some people in there, and then I figured, okay, it would be unfair to just have some and the others don't, because there were so many people, or there are so many people that kind of inspire me to do this, and which I will always connect to Planet Zoo. And so I searched for a kind of a way how to do it, and I figured that the team, the people around me at Gamescom would be maybe the coolest thing to do, because that is where it all started, like literally, because that's the first time where I ever played the game, and it was a lovely week. And so I just figured that would be a cool dedication thing to do. And if there's anyone not in here, not as a dedication, I'm very sorry. It's not meant personal or whatever. I just wanted to find some people that I can put in for the sake of the book. And in the future, there will be enough possibilities and opportunities to put other people also in as dedications. I always love to do that, because it just feels good to have all these people as part of my creations, because that shows that, you know, gaming and stuff like that, it's not only about the pure joy of playing for yourself, like, you know, that image of the gamer sitting in the dark basement and having no friends and being fat and stinky. It also shows that this is absolutely not true. How many people you have around you, and how many friendships are kind of created or like develop out of this. So that's pretty cool. So I always love to have them in. Now, as I said, this is the beginning of the Fairytale Castle. This was just a little test over here about the general shape, because again, I made this habitat functional. So this becomes almost a shelter, and I wanted to make sure that this looks somewhat believable and the animals can traverse over here. So yeah, I spend a lot of time, I cut out most of it. I spend a load of time actually figuring out that the animals can traverse everything. The biggest pain is actually the elephant, and that's also why I needed to get rid of this pond, which I actually loved a lot, this little pond over here. But in the end, there was no chance to keep that pond, and I decided to do something else about the water. Not even sure if that works in the blueprint later on, but if not, you can easily create it as I do it in here. You will see that in a second. In a second might be a bit optimistic. You will see that in a bit. Now, yeah, again, I'm a bit sorry that I couldn't keep the pond in. You have seen that I really struggled to create something for the elephant, especially to traverse. The giraffe seems to be pretty okay, but honestly, I feel like that the elephant is the hardest animal in the game, with the most craziest hitbox ever. Yeah, here we go. This is now me already doing actually the writing in the book. So most of the writing makes absolutely no sense. It's just like letters put in here. So to make kind of a fake text, as a graphic guy, you potentially know that I would have loved to put lorem ipsum in here, but the thing is, I would have created this text for my own then, and there's no point in doing that then. So yeah, I was just randomly placing some letters down until I figured it would be kind of cool to actually have names and stuff in. So I started with Bo. For those of you, for whatever reason, you don't know who that is, this is the community lead on Planet Zoo and in general at Frontier. And she's a good friend of mine, actually. We've been doing stuff together since the Gamescom 2016, where she just started at Gamescom, same as the lady designer who's just getting her place here. Well, she didn't start at Frontier, but it was the first time meeting ever. And I just, again, as I said, I just love to plop them in here and just have them as a part of it, just as a little dedication, because I feel like, in a story, in a little story of a Frontier and Planet Zoo, they are a vital part of it, and that's why they need to be in here. And yeah, again, this is just me slapping down some other letters and words and stuff. I just copied some lines over to be a bit more repetitive, but I desperately wanted to have this all in, because I felt like, a book without actually having some writing in makes no sense at all. And then I also put some page numbers on, which are usually in the bottom, I know, but whatever. I just decided to put them down. Yeah, Bazo gets also her little dedication here with the tortoises, because, well, her first zoo was basically all about tortoises all the time, which was crazy crowded at a point. Never mind. It was insane. But yeah, so that's what I meant. I just want to put them all in, and Sylph obviously will get his dedication in a second as well. He also is having a little bit to it. I couldn't hold myself to put the word spire just next to Sylph, so it's Silvered Spire. It's one word. It belongs together, so that's why. And I think I don't need to talk about the whole story here, but you get the point. This is my idea, creating this storybook, which has also a little bit of a backstory, if you will. It's not just me doing a book out of nothing. There's also a little bit of a story to it. And yeah, funny story, by the way, over here. I kind of I find a new technique then how to do this. But the thing about putting these letters down, it's now sped up 9 times. You can imagine how much of a pain in the that was to create this kind of letter stuff here, because you always needed to use the align to surface option, but then I couldn't actually plop them down. I just needed to quickly hold down shift to make sure it's not joining the other building, because I wanted to keep the pages completely separate in case I needed to adjust the color, which effectively I needed to do later on. So yeah, I found then a way of doing it a bit quicker. As you can see now, it works so much easier and so much quicker at this point in time, because I found a way how this yeah, just worked easily enough. And yeah, that's why I put this all down. And again, I hope that I didn't forget about anyone. If so, I'm really sorry, but you are not forgetting, whoever you are. But I don't know, it was just so much fun to create it. And yeah, now we are at the point where I basically selected them all, moved them down, and make them actually a proper font. Also, I was thinking in downloading the font from the workshop, because actually there was a better font available, but I tried it off screen, and guys, holy heck, that would have been even more of a pain, because it's not one single piece. It's basically it basically is like a proper building piece, if you will, and that kind of creates the problem that you cannot align that to surface. Well, you can, but it does do it in a weird way, because the gizmo, like the orientation of it, is totally wrong. And yeah, now, as I said at the beginning, I then figured that this book alone will not do the job, so I created some kind of a table underground here, which I will get rid of in the end, because I just didn't see that happening. The thing is, I could have raised this all up to really stand on a table, but then I would have loved to have like a roundish one, almost like in a library or whatever, where you would have the book then on display, so to say, and then create that. But I don't know, I didn't feel it. It just didn't work out. So this is why I said earlier on I wanted to create a different pond here. So until I figured I needed to raise the glass a bit, here we go. So that's what I did. And since I wasn't too happy with how this pond looked without actually a cover, I created a little plate, as if someone would be also eating and have some cookies or whatever here in front. So maybe a kid has some cookies from the mom, and that's what's standing over here. And there is some water also on this little thing where the animals can drink off, because as imagination starts to happen, these are the things that happen automatically. And yeah, I was just trying to make this align properly enough so that you cannot see it directly and still have some water in that plate. It kind of worked actually pretty good, I thought. So yeah, it is believable, and it worked out the way it is. But now there will be a whole lot of changing and adjusting will be done now, because I just figured, okay, it has to be a proper habitat. People who download stuff from a workshop, they want to use it, and I would have been fine with using this only for the looks of it and just go with the flow and just let leave this as a cinematic kind of experience. But since people definitely want to download that, I thought, okay, let's go the extra mile and make it a workable or like an actual functional habitat, which it is in the end. And you can adjust it to your needs. So if you want to have certain animals in, you can just change ever so slightly the things. The terrain below is obviously, easily changeable. You can, whatever, if your animals need more soil, less soil, more heavy tall grass or whatever, you can use it, whatever, you can do it. Now, I wanted to make the scene a bit more childish, so I figured it would be nice to have maybe like a little pencil here or some just some pens where the kids would have been drawing with, and I just light them down here kind of in a chaotic way, so there's no order why I laid them down here this way. Also change the color a bit, so different colored things, so makes the scene a little bit more, I don't know, believable. Now the biggest issue I had left is how the hell would the animals be possible to move down from the book into that kind of little table area where all the other stuff is. And yeah, first of all, I needed to somehow make space for the elephant. And Frontier, if you're listening, please, if there is any way in making the hitbox for the elephant a bit more accessible, like a bit more, I understand that we need a bit of free air, and for most animals it's amazing, it's fine, you can do it, but the elephant, holy, I just, like, if you look at that, that's like what I needed to create until there was the ever so tiny space in the middle. Honestly, if you count, you could have put like 20 elephants next to each other and above each other, and it would be still big enough. So if there's a way in reducing the needed space to traverse through an opening, God, that would be amazing, because yeah, this kind of changed the whole look of my castle thing there. So I just would love to have it a bit smaller if possible. Now, yeah, what I was doing next is kind of, I have no idea how this is called in English, but you have this little search mark or read mark or whatever you want to call it. At least it kind of is a little thing which reminds you where you were at reading this book. And yes, I had this kind of purple thing there already, but it's not uncommon that you have this purple thing tucked to a book, so it's a fixed piece from the book, while this one is something you can buy and you leave it somewhere. I wanted to have something that is believably lying there, that kind of, if you look at it, you would say, yes, that's kind of something that would work. And I created this, and I figured that I needed to do it. And eventually it worked out. And what I also did is I moved this little purple thing also to make sure that this works. And funny enough, the smaller animals can use also the purple one, so that's kind of cool. And the bigger animals, like, well, the elephant can use the other ramp. So actually they can go down. And then I figured, okay, I need some kind of ramp to make them move into the little pond there, which eventually I ended up with doing this like wooden little board over here. In comparison, size comparison is a bit too small, so I would have loved it's kind of something where you put like your toast on or whatever. But if you look at the size of the book, this would be a pretty small toast though. So it's actually, the plate is some kind of like a coffee cup plate. That's totally fine. But this thing is like, maybe it's just a badge or whatever. So I think it's still believable if you don't go for like a plate or like a board or whatever. It's definitely like a sandwich board or whatever. It's definitely something small, wooden plate or whatever. I don't know. It kind of works. And then there was no way in not having some terrain here and there, because I figured if this is like the story plopping out, it's also plopping out into kind of the environment anyways. So I changed it again, and as you can see, there was a whole bunch of trial and error here going on. I just figured that this was the most clever idea in doing it, and yeah, at the end I'm quite happy with the result. But as I said, at some point I just figured, okay, you know what, the wooden texture on the ground, it just doesn't work. It's just not what I want. And I went in and putting down all the needed stuff for our animals to live here, some enrichment items. I tried to put them in places that they are somewhat kind of built into that scene, so they don't look as obvious. So I put this scratching pole or post next to the pens, as if this would be a pen itself. I put this giraffe kind of feeder inside kind of a tree, so it almost looks like the giraffe would be eating from the tree. And then I figured, okay, I need some foliage here and there to make it look a bit more fairy tale-ish, as if this all would be growing out of the imagination of the kid, you know, reading that, and everything grows and it just plops out from the bottom. But yeah, eventually I figured, okay, I don't know, I wasn't happy. I was trying to put some trees down here just to give myself a feeling of how would that look in front of a forest or whatever. Again, also, this is something I deleted in the end. I just wanted to get some context, you know, sometimes to really get the finishing touches in. I want to see what it looks like if people have a forest there, and I figured, okay, let's change the color of that board, but it just didn't work out, so I deleted it. And then I also, for like the final touches, I decided to go with the invisible fence, as I said earlier, and here we go. That is it, guys. This was the build of my storybook habitat, and you can see now some cinematics that actually prove it is working, or proves it is working. So here we go. You can see the animals walking over there with a camel down in the left bottom part. There's a giraffe walking on there, an elephant, there's a panda, which is about to climb inside this cherry blossom tree in a bit. I remember that it does that while I was recording. And yeah, obviously a few moments later all the animals escaped, but I at least managed to have this few seconds where they are roaming around in their habitat correctly, which is super awesome, and it kind of was a lot of fun creating it, and so I hope you guys did as well. Now, if you did like this, as always, I would love to see some comments about this, how you enjoyed that, and if you want to show it off to someone else, do it if you want. I don't care about that. Like, I do care. I would love to have this shared around, but yeah, I don't want to be cringe or whatever. It's just I had a lot of fun building that, so I hope you guys did too. Now I wish all of you a happy Sunday evening or Monday morning, or whatever is the time you're watching that, and see you in the next one. Until then, have a great time, guys, and bye bye. Alrighty guys, thank you for watching this video. I really do appreciate that. As always, make sure to check out also my social media channels. You can find me everywhere under @Rudi Rennkamel. Also, big thanks to the crew. You can see it on the left hand side right now. And as always, if you want to see more, you click that card on the top right. And if you want to stick around because you like the stuff you've just saw, whatever, you know what I mean, just click that sub button, which is to the bottom right of the screen right now. But everything else I can say is have a great time and see you next time. Bye guys.